thank you for introducing us, and thank you for being there as our host today. Welcome, my panelists. We have now real 2020, 30 minutes to go. Into my first question, I want to start with Mr. Aggarwal. I want to go to you first. The topic is innovation, key to creating tech-led product companies. So innovation is the centerpiece of this conversation. My first question is that we talk about it, but how do we stay and build a culture of innovation, if I may have asked you?
Hi, Ruhail. Nice to meet you. And if I would request to start my video. Thank you. You're talking about to build a culture of innovation, right? I think the entire team needs to be driven. I mean, you need to show them a vision first of what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to sort of disrupt in the space. And I think that's how each and every person in the team is motivated. And I think everyone then starts coming up with new ideas. And I mean, if to answer your question, that's how one would build that culture of innovation in the company. And I think innovation stems from ideas at the end of the day. So you need to have a good idea generation machine in your system.
Right. Great. Mr. Bose, your quick thoughts on building that capacity to innovate and look at things in a very new way every time.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the panel. It's great to be here, Ruhail. And just a bit of background, we are innovating in a very hardcore, traditional, old industry that has been around for centuries. And the first, most important thing to be implementing any sort of innovation is the people. So we make sure that not only we have people who understand why innovation is important. So whenever we onboard someone, we start giving an example of a dinosaur. And we say, look, if you come, and especially with the experienced hires, whenever we are hiring, we tell them, look, dinosaurs are no longer there. So don't be that dinosaur. You have to adopt, because we need the people to implement those innovations. There is no point in sitting in the boardroom and trying to come up with the strategies when the culture is going to eat your strategy for breakfast. So we have to get the right set of people, and we make sure that the hiring is done in the correct way. We mix them we have a very diverse team. We have people from fashion design, we have people from merchandising, we also have people in the technical side. We make sure the team understands why innovation is important, and the innovation doesn't have to come just from technical skill set. Of course, the developers can code whatever they want, but the feedback has to come from the fashion team. So we try to mix all the things together to come up with bottom-up innovation in our company.
Right. Mr. Nandi, we have heard the two speakers before you. If you can hear me, am I audible to you? Yeah.
Yes, Ruhail, I can hear you.
You are also won a recent race. I mean, I'll have a separate discussion on that. Yeah. So tell me, how do you look at innovation? What are the elements that tell you that this is the time to innovate?
Absolutely. I think the challenges which we encounter and our understanding about the market. So these two are the key areas which helps us to understand where is the gap, right? Now, what happens at our company is that we actually are trying to revolutionize the industry, which is unfortunately has been working in a very traditional way, right? So today, the thought process that we have imbibed in the organization is from the perspective that we ask people that, is there a way you can find a better way of doing it, right? So if you remember this particular quote, which has come from Dr. Albert, which says that, everybody sees innovation, right? But it is the person who thinks different does it. So that's the philosophy which we try to follow here. And what we do here is that we love people to come up with new ideas. Then we put it into a model which is like whether it is desirable, whether it is feasible, and whether it is viable, right? And of course, the most important part, whether it is ethical to do it. And we take it ahead.
Right. Mr. Kadsur, your thoughts to this?
Well, I think, innovation should be a strategy. I personally feel that it has to be very core of your business. For example, if you look at it, in the startup environment today, I don't think it is a difficult task. But if you look at it from a bigger organizations today, that has become very difficult because the organizations having a, let us say, 1 lakh customer, 1 lakh employee base, they find it extremely difficult to innovate. But I think in a startup environment, I don't think that's a difficulty because even if you look at India as a country, I think the very typical jugaad mindset is nothing but an innovation. And I think we look at every aspect in terms of how do we jugaad and how do we kind of get there. It's just about kind of channelizing it, using that jugaad mentality in a very, very constructive manner, looking at the challenge, what we have in front of you. I think we as an organization, what we do is, I think fundamentally we believe that anybody can innovate, right? I don't think necessarily you need to have an experience. A guy who's just out of college today, or maybe a guy who's just 18 years old, can come out and give you a fantastic idea. It's about how do you kind of understand, if you have a fair understanding of the domain, how do you take that feedback and convert that into an idea and deliver it? That's where it is. I think experienced people like us will use the domain understanding and then probably kind of put a lot of the youngsters to kind of come out with an idea. And when we do it, we also tell them that you do not have any restrictions. Imagine for a second that the entire world is for you. And there is absolutely no regulation, nothing. You have to kind of think and imagine something and probably come out of it. And people can really come out with a fantastic idea. And then probably have to sit around and kind of figure out how do you kind of maneuver the whole scenario and fit into your requirement and get it delivered. That's what my thoughts on this.
Ms. Sharma, let me ask you a slightly different question. We've also seen that, we believe that large companies, it's difficult to innovate, in large companies compared to smaller ones. One, is this real? Is this a myth? Is it reality? Second, is there a calendar to innovate? How often should a company look at innovating itself?
Thanks, Ruhail, for having me. I hope everyone is doing fine. So I believe that smaller outfits versus bigger outfits, that's a very legit question. So I see this as a pirate versus a navy conversation. So smaller outfits are like pirates and larger outfits are like a navy. And then when you're working in a navy, you are more accustomed to the uniform, in terms of like the dress codes, in terms of like all aspects. Whereas like when you're working for a small pirate ship, you are like less restricted in terms of the capability and the execution that you can do on an individual level. So at a larger level, I would say that we have examples on both the sides. Of course, it is a compulsion to innovate when you're a smaller company because you just won't survive in the marketplace if you don't innovate. We do products, they don't grow fast enough to become big. And being in a larger company, I think I have certain examples. So like there's Google and like the likes of that. So they have a separate 20% time where people are able to do some project of their own, which gives them the the ability to try out new ideas and try out like new things. And Orkut and Gmail and all of these tools that we all use are product of that 20% time that Google has for their employees. And then I think again it goes down to building the kind of culture that you have. So if you just want to be a navy, with a hint of piracy on that, so I think that is the perfect combination to go about innovation. And then I think everything has a lifetime. If you don't innovate, you'll be phased out of the market sooner or later.
Right.
Last example with Apple and IBM. Yeah.
Right. Mr. Aggarwal, I want to understand your strategy when it comes to listening to your consumers, listening to the market, and then changing, pivoting, and addressing those needs. How does it happen in your company?
So we came up with the idea of so what Coffeeza is, right? We're trying to disrupt the coffee space in India. Now, coffee has always been a beverage which you either, you have it at home in the form of instant coffee, like your Nescafe sachets, or if you really want to enjoy the experience, you would walk to a cafe and, order a cappuccino or a latte at the bar. Now, we wanted people to be able to experience that at their homes. So that's where we went towards, these our coffee machines and our coffee pods, so that people can actually make beverages like cappuccino, latte, the cafe style beverages at home. This is the idea what we are trying to bring forth, and I think going forward, it will just, we'll have to, in terms of future innovation, you'll have to keep adding more and more things. For instance, now a lot of people are operating coffee machines using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So RFID and Bluetooth Wi-Fi technologies will get implemented down the line. So yes, so this is, I think that's the example of innovation of what we have done.
Right. Mr. Bose, I was reading about the COVID scenario and how you took it to another level and now become a global supplier. So is innovation also about, of course it's contextual, but the time you need to pivot, and to mobilize all your teams, how do you tie up with those challenges? Though you get an innovative idea, but then to make it work, in a quick time, what are the best ways of doing it?
Well, I think being agile is the most important skill set, where you have to listen to the market, and if you are ahead of the market, you will hear the winds of change. So when we started doing PPE kits, actually we were one of the first factories in all of India, maybe one of the first, if not the first, to do it. And simply because we were supplying coveralls, the industrial ones, to some of our Chinese clients. And that's how we started hearing those market signals. So market always gives you those signals well in advance if you are in position. Now, if you are agile, if you have the management is sharp enough and flexible enough to not just find an opportunity. Once you find an opportunity, how do you act on it? So the way we have structured our management team, the way we have structured our team is a very quick turnaround time, quick reaction time. Once we figure out an opportunity, we go for it. So that's what happened with COVID and PPE, and at one point we were one of the largest manufacturer also, and then suddenly the whole gates opened and everyone was manufacturing, so we were out of it. But the whole skill set is being agile, being quick to respond, because you can have all the systems in place, but if you don't respond or you just take a lot of time, others will definitely catch up.
Right. Yeah. So there is innovation is of course very exciting for an entrepreneur who is of course looking for the next adventure. But how do you differentiate innovation from impactful innovation, something which lasts, something which is successful? Are there also any filters when it comes to innovating? What metrics do you take into account? This is to you, Mr. Nandi.
Thanks, Ruhail. So absolutely, yes. I think the key point that we need to understand that as entrepreneurs, we all love to do something new, right? Something new, bring something new to the market, right? But we have to keep our ears very close to the ground, understanding what the market needs. So it's not just about what you want to build, it's also about what the market needs. So that is precisely important. Now, I was speaking about the thought process that is it falling into this whole matrix of, let's say, whether it is desirable, if that checkbox is ticked. Next part, we need to understand that whether it is feasible, that is whether your team has the capability of building it, right? After that, is it viable, right? What can you do that it is sustainable now and in future? So these are the three key things that we take into consideration whenever we get a new idea, and we feel that whether it is it should be worked upon in a very basically agile way, and then we pivot and get into the market, right? So these are the key things that we follow, and we have seen great benefits doing this.
Right. Mr. Kadsur, when you build products like you have built the product that you have, is an entrepreneur also fearing that it may be ahead of its time? Is it just that, excitement about innovation? How do you take the market along with you at the same time? How do you balance the adventure of innovation with the market reality that, it has to be a sustainable innovation at the end of the day?
I think it's all about experience, right? See, for example, when you look at us, we did start with the legal desk as a first venture and then kind of pivoted. So the legal desk is all about creating the contracts, and you can kind of something called as a DIY, where you can come onto a platform and create all of them. Though we had enough tractions, but it was not converting into money, right? So monetization was something which is delaying. That's when we realized that in India, even today, people are more comfortable in terms of meeting a lawyer rather than doing it something more net. right, on the web. So it is about a mindset. I think if you are looking at something to do with culturally change, then definitely yes, possible, but it takes time. But I think if you are looking at, say, that's when you're going to pivot it towards building completely a digital product today, and then we kind of keep dreaming about seeing the country without paper. Like that's how it is. Now, when you get there, when you know, I think particularly what we realize that is, if it is not a very painful area, then it's very unlikely that they're going to implement it. Though it is one of the best innovation in terms of what it is. And if you are kind of looking at doing something like this, then I think you necessarily need to have a lot of time saying that I have a lot of time and patience to kind of wait and see the results coming up. But today's world, I think all the entrepreneurs and startups is all about doing quick one. And second thing is also using an enabler as a technology and also creating something which is whatever is a painful area right now. To that extent, I think the experience is something that definitely gives us the results. Second thing is, when we are about 5 years now, where we go and meet a lot of clients, so we get a lot of feedback from the customer. It's just about you being extremely open to the feedbacks, right? So the moment the customer is kind of, and you should be able to read between the lines. Customer may not come and tell you exactly that this is what I need, but he expresses his discomfort in some areas where this is something what he wants to kind of get it done. Automatically, if you are able to pick up those parameters and then work around it in terms of putting a solution, and then go back to them and go to them, and I think definitely it works. And that's what we've been doing. And I think failure is a part of the game, right? So unless and until if you don't have that kind of a mindset that it's okay to fail, and I don't think you'll succeed. So that's one of the very, very fundamental criteria for us to kind of get there. So when you're experimenting it, it's okay to fail, and then probably kind of retweak it and get to a level where you want to get there. That's how it is.
Right. Ms. Sharma, in your space, the video space, the conversations are there right now when it comes to media. What are the broad innovations that are happening there, and what is your company? What new innovations are you as the company undertaking?
Sure. So let me start by giving you a quick background, on what Video.AI does. So Video.AI is just it's like a wordplay on video, and then we are using artificial intelligence to augment the technology that we have. So it's a technology platform which connects advertisers and publishers inside a private ecosystem. So we have a primary focus on video ads, which the mainstream market traditionally had very limited access to because of its complexity in various dimensions. So video is more complex to store, serve, stream, and display and measure. So it's like all throughout, it's like way more complex as compared to maybe a simple image or a text ad that conventionally used to run on the internet. It's always been very simple otherwise. So with video, there has been exponential increase in the complexity on all dimensions. So that's where we come in. We are more of an end-to-end platform. We help our partners who are both on the advertiser side as well as the publisher side to make the most of video technology. And then so on the advertiser side, we have a couple of Fortune 500s and who come in and as advertisers. And then on the other side, we have publishers and roughly doing around 3 billion ads every month on the platform. So the key innovation I would say here is the way we have executed this. So there are different solutions right now for different segments of the problem. So there is something called Akamai that's only tackling video storage and video streaming. These are the content delivery networks. Then there are just the video players who are just helping you run a video content on the internet. So there's JW Player and Hula and Bright Cove and these guys. And then there are other players who are just focused on the advertising bit of it. And then it's some people are just focused on analytics. There's an Indian company called Videoai based in Noida. A lot of companies are tackling different aspects of the spectrum, and then that's where we come in. We cater to the entire spectrum. We give them an end-to-end turnkey offering, which they just have to partner with us in a single integration, and then we boot the entire spectrum up for them. And it's all it's self-made, and it's like a custom proprietary stack that we built over time, being from a former publisher background. And then going down to the very basic definition of innovation. Innovation is just about connecting existing things in a new way. You really have to just see what's out there, and then what's kind of broken, and then you have to try your shot against that. So that's pretty much where we are.
No, absolutely can't agree more on that front. And we have around 7 to 8 minutes, so I want to get to this question and start with you, Mr. Aggarwal. That every kind of approach of strategy has a best practice. So if I have to ask you best practices to ensure innovation that drives product supremacy, what would you list?
I think so from our experience, whenever we launch products, I think the initial feedback was extremely important coming from customers, and to take that feedback into the back to the R&D team and say, this is what we need to work on. And I'll give you a small example. We started with 2 intensities of coffee. So we like a 6/10 intensity and a 9/10 intensity. And we thought 9/10 is a strong intensity. People, that's strong enough for people. But a lot of feedback came in where customers were asking us, we want a really strong coffee, an extra strong coffee. So that feedback was extremely important for us, where we took it back to the R&D team and we actually launched an 11/10 coffee. So that's like a super bold coffee, and customers who love the strong flavor, they're crazy about it. So it's at the end of the day, you think that the product is right for the market, but it's actually the customers who will tell you what they really want. And you have to take that back into the feedback loop and improve. Right. So I think the improvement process has to be continuous. Similar for our coffee machines. We launched a coffee machine which would make black coffee. We modeled it on the Nespresso brand, which is a huge brand globally. And globally, a lot of people are black coffee drinkers, and we thought it would do so great. But a lot of feedback started coming in, and we realized people are actually looking for coffee like cappuccino, latte, and that's what really people want to do. And that's what we again took back into our feedback loop. We improved our product offering. We came up with machines that would allow users to make cappuccino and latte, like froth and so on. And I think that's, at the end of the day, innovation is nothing about taking feedback, improvement, and then continuously taking more and more feedback. And I think that's the only strategy that has worked for us.
Great. Mr. Bose, how do you ensure that, it leads to product supremacy in your category when you do innovation? Sorry, audio is, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So with us, the most important part is the product has to sell, right? So, and it's very easy to find out whether we are innovating or not. If it is not selling, then we are doing something wrong. So we again get that feedback, plug it into our manufacturing processes, plug into our design processes, and improve on it. And it's a cyclic process. It's never going to be 100% foolproof. All if we are doing 10 different colors or 10 different styles, it's not going to be all selling fantastically. But it's a constant improvement process where we are even working with different brands. We are informing them that, hey, this is what you think is the design that should work, but maybe our systems are giving you a different feedback. So some of our clients actually do implement those changes. And then there are still some of the clients who still want to go with the gut feeling. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Mr. Nandi, sorry. So tell me your story. How do you decipher this science of getting innovation right, that helps your product?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Ruhail, so for us, we are helping the new age micro, small and medium financial intermediaries to overcome the regulatory barrier, right, and enter newer markets. So you understand the challenge here is that we are helping the new age companies who look for innovative ways to basically innovative partners and innovative ways. We are helping them to cater to basically remote markets. For example, probably a company which is sitting in Bangalore or in Mumbai or in any of the tier 1, tier 2 cities, they want to go and basically work or onboard and acquire a customer, maybe in Arunachal Pradesh, maybe in Assam, maybe in a remote place in UP or maybe Bihar, right? So if they have to do it, then they rely on our platform. Now, it is very important that we understand both the ends. We understand what our customer needs and what the end customer needs. Now, that is where the whole crux of our innovation comes in, that we are user experience driven, because we might build the best system which is behind, but if it is something which the user is unable to use it, it's not extremely friendly with the way they generally use probably a smartphone, right? So it's not going to work. So that's where our key approach here has been, that we listen to our customers, listen to their end customers, and of course, over a period of time, take the information, feed it to our system, and bring in some of the tech enablers like AI to this whole process of improving this experience. So that has been our journey till now.
Right. Mr. Kadsur, before I come to you, there's a common thread that everybody believes in, that, of course, the feedback and then turning it, sharing it with the teams, and then reimagining the product. But tell me the quality of feedback. How do companies ensure that the quality of feedback is also right? While I also want to know from you the best practices as well.
See, I think when you talk about the best practices, I would say first we need to understand the problem statement, right? So I think, let us say that we have 5 people who is a part of the team discussing about the solution. I think we need to understand whether all the 5 of them understood the problem statement. That's the first step. Second step, I'm saying that we'll also do a little bit of market research, saying that what we understand as a problem is actually a problem or is just an assumption. That's where we validate. Is there any other solution available right now? And if there is something available, is there something, can we build something better than that? Then you actually get into the mode of innovation, right? End of the day, as a customer or for a business, innovation is only a means in terms of getting or probably kind of giving a better business and giving a better customer experience. Just because you have innovated something which is exceptionally great, not necessarily that people want to buy it. It should be an enabler in terms of understanding the problem against what solution you want to provide. From that context, I think the first 2 steps you completed, automatically the third step will come out in terms of figuring out what is the right way of solution. And fourth is, if you have done that, then probably how do we go back and sell it to the customer, probably offer it to them so that they're very happy about using it. Now, feedback is something which is a very, very, I think in my opinion, it is more to do with your senses, right? See, for example, I am an extremely confident, and I keep talking about it, saying that how many non-verbal communications you get, whether your antennas are on when you are sitting with the customer. No customer will tell you something directly on your face. It's about 4 of them discussing in a meeting room. And when they're discussing between them, they're going to drop something which you have to pick it up. And it's about how sensitive you are to the entire environment, how sensitive are you in terms of the domain understanding, and how much of a domain understanding you have in terms of comprehending that and converting that into a problem, and then you go back and give them a solution. In my opinion, it's about your receivers, it's about you as an individual. How good are you in terms of understanding the problem statement? And the feedback is that, see, for example, today, there are companies who have done exceptionally well because they got a right feedback. It's not that the customer will come back and give the feedback. It's just that they're able to process it in a manner in which they want to understand the customer problem. See, in my opinion, it's about you as an individual, how effectively understand the verbal and non-verbal communications, process it, understanding the domain, entire details of the domain, and then go back and give a solution. That's how typically we work in terms of feedback or in terms of innovation.
No, wonderful. I think being sensitive to the information around and also keeping your antenna up all the time, looking actively, proactively looking for feedback. I think some wonderful points. Mr. Sharma, your last word. So what are the best practices that you employ to ensure that, product supremacy stays?
I think it's the framework of thought that we follow is that is something that was propagated by Henry Ford back in start of the 19th century. So he said, if you ask what people want, they would have said like faster horses. They wouldn't have said cars, because for the very reason that they're accustomed to the way things are out there in the marketplace. Especially when you're innovating, when you're iterating, then of course you would want to have like a better version of the similar thing out there. So I'm focusing more on the on the innovative part, and then how you do that is effectively build something that you would want to use ideally as a user. So that has worked wonderfully for like a lot of times in the past. If you look at how Facebook worked, so effectively like Mark built it out for himself, to network with girls in his college, and then it's like it goes from there. All these products, Apple One was built by Jobs and was just to cater to their own needs of having a personal computer, whereas the other ones were too expensive. So I think really it's more about identifying a particular opportunity, and and it would be the best if you yourself are one of the users of that product. So you won't need to do some extensive market research. And I think all this market research data is useful to an extent, but I think that's a scrappy way of doing it. If you're looking to do it in terms of a pirate ship, of course when you're trying to do it from a Navy perspective, you might want to employ fancy market research studies and stuff like that, but it doesn't always work in my experience. So yeah, that's my 2 cents there.
Right. Wonderful. I think we all are innovation, creative. My always, people when they talk about creativity, they just say they limit that definition. I think the innovators like you are at the forefront of that creativity. And thanks for joining us on this panel. Very short on time, but thanks for all the inputs that you've shared here. Hope it was valuable. And thanks for joining. Over to you, Weber.
Thank you, Ruhail.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruhail.